All right, welcome back to this next episode of Transport Fever 2. In our first episode, we kind of established the map and figured out what we were doing, and we set up our initial network around Salt Lake City. Just kind of an overview of what that looks like. We set up a system where we delivered crude oil to the oil refinery. We took the oil refinery to the fuel refinery and then supplied it to Salt Lake City. Okay. In the bigger picture, I'm going to go ahead and roll the time forward on this. In the big picture, this is not making us enough money. We need to spend more money in order to establish more networks to get us into the positive for the future. So if we look at overall accounting, we're still about 106,000 in the hole. If we were kind of looking at without our investments taking place, right? We've got about 99,000, about 100,000 in loan interest. We have to get above 100,000 pretty quickly in order for this company to survive. Now, at the end of the day, I can still borrow money. I think I can still borrow about 10 million more if I wanted, but that's going to be kind of our emergency situation. I don't want to do that if I don't have to. So we're going to avoid that. Last episode, we had talked about connecting Salt Lake City and Detroit, and then using that as kind of a major bridge in which we're supplying food and fuel back and forth, back and forth. We don't have enough money to do that yet. The reason why is because the grain that is needed to turn into food, first of all, is a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 grain, I get 1 food. Okay. Also, the nearest food is way down here. So it is a significant distance. If you kind of zoom in and take a look, it's a trek. Okay. My trucks will not be able to do that in an efficient way. It just won't make any money. So I would have to use a train. And we're not at a financial point yet where I can use trains. So we can't do that. So I was kind of looking around the map trying to figure out where else can I start to establish lines, knowing that eventually we're coming back to Salt Lake City and we're going to kind of make this connection possible. This is going to be kind of our first major train line in between here. Okay. We also, on this episode, need to kind of make sure that this system here is as efficient as possible. Okay. So let's start with that. Okay. I've got 28 oil sitting on this platform ready to be picked up. That means that 6 to 8 more trucks are needed to get that to 0. Now, I don't want it at 0. I want every single truck to be picking up picking up oil every single time and delivering for fuel. I shouldn't say 6 to 8. That's not right. It should be 4. I should need 4 more trucks to make that a reality. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just increase this just slightly. We're going to go 2 more. 2 more red trucks to try and make sure that this oil supply is as close to 6 as possible. The reason I want 6 is because that means that anytime a red truck will roll up, it will have enough to be full and immediately drive off. Okay? I don't want 0, because if I have 0, that means a red truck is sitting on the platform waiting for waiting for oil. I don't want that. I want there always to be just a little bit of a net oil production, positive oil production, so that red trucks are always going to be full when they come in. So we're going to watch that with my 2 additional trucks and see if that's the level I need. Looking at Salt Lake City, they are currently getting 20 of 58 that they need. That's a 40% boost to their population growth. You can see that is equaling a net increase in their population. Now, that does mean that there is a little bit of a noise emissions issue within the city now, which means that you are going to have a decrease in population because of the noise and the emissions. But your net increases are outweighing the negatives. So you're going to start seeing growth in this city. You can actually start seeing it now. People are building more houses, more roads are being built. That's part of the reason why I love this game so much. Like it shows in real time, look, buildings popping up, because people are getting the fuel that they need. Okay. Now that'll eventually cap out. It'll eventually kind of level out because it needs more. It needs food also, but we're seeing Salt Lake City grow. Okay. Zooming out, I was able to find another location that has an easy kind of triangular distribution system that we're going to take a look at now. Very similar to what we were just seeing. We're going to go all the way down here to Kansas City. Now, Kansas City needs fuel and food. Strange that we are doing that again. But it has a farm, actually 2 farms. It also has a food processing plant, and then it has demand for food. So we're going to set up a system that's going to try to be as efficient as possible in supplying food to and from this city. Okay, and there's a couple ways that we're going to do that. Probably the easiest that we're going to do is we're going to set up a transfer point from this farm, take it to the food. Food's going to go to Kansas City and back. But also, since this is a 2-to-1 ratio, we need some trucks that are only delivering grain to food. Okay, so we've got 2 lines that we're going to do here, just like we have up at the at Salt Lake City. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is a lot of road to try and get to this farm, so we're going to try to build an access point that is as far away from that mess as possible. Let's see if we can get down here. We cannot, of course. Let's see if we can get here. Okay, let's see how close we have to get. No, but go all the way up there. Okay, well, let's try a little trick here. So we can build roads. So let's try and build a small dirt road along the side of this farm that will give us a connection point. And then we're going to build that road onto this road. Okay. Let's see if that gives us better catchment. Yep. See? Okay, so since I built that tiny road, I can now go all the way down here to get that grain from that farm. Let's try to find a good spot. Looks like 77,000 is going to be as good as we're going to get. Let's go there. Okay, let's check just to make sure. Boom. Boom, got catchment. Great. Let's go to our food processing. This is going to need 2 because we want inbound and outbound. Let's try to make it since there's nothing going on. Ooh, new vehicle. Since we got nothing else going on over here, we're going to try and get it as far away. Okay, so right about there. We're going to make it a little bit bigger because I don't want food sitting on the platform. 204,000. I'll take it. Food processing. Uh-oh. All right, looks like I screwed up. Okay, so I'm going to pause real quick. This is not connected because it will not register as being connected. So we got to bulldoze. See, I lost $50,000 by making that mistake right there. Okay, it's got to be a little bit closer in order to make that connection viable. So 212,000 this time. Okay. All right, now it's got catchment. And I probably could have done the same trick that I'd done before. I should have actually. I should have done the same trick of putting road out here, connecting it, and then having it, but that's okay. All right, so we got that there. Now we need a drop-off in Kansas City. Let's go ahead and take our truck unload, and we're going to try to find a spot where I don't have to go too far into the city, but I'm getting the maximum return. Okay, so let's go there. Boom. Great. Okay, let's set up our first route. That's going to be let's set up the route that's just going to feed grain to the food processing. So we're going to click on the farm. We're going to click on the food processing, and let's rename this. I mean, it's just so easy. KC. Then let's go grain to food 1. All right, now we need some trucks. I'm going to put the truck depot over on this side because I can anticipate more need for trucks on that side of the river than the other side. So let's keep it simple. Put it right there, about 29,000 for that. Look, I'm already down to 7.7 million. I've spent about 500,000 so far on this episode of this project right now. Okay, so we're going to start with our standard 5 trucks. Let's put that on the KC grain line. Okay, and we're going to keep this line. Let's change the color on this line. Let's make it yellow. Okay, let's go to vehicles. Let's paint all the vehicles yellow. All right, great. Let's set up our second line. Our second line is going to be roughly the same thing, but it's going to include the Kansas City drop-off. So let's go new line, farm, food processing, and then from food processing, we're going to go drop off in the city. Boom. Okay. Then it's going to go back and it's going to do the whole thing again. Okay. So KC, grain to food to supply, because we're going to supply Kansas City with food. All right. For that, let's do 5 vehicles. Because they have quite a bit longer to go. And then we'll kind of try to figure out what that looks like. Okay. Let's make that second line. I like orange for this line. So let's go ahead and turn all of our trucks orange. Boom. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and see that in action. Here come the trucks. Here come the yellow trucks to begin. And then the orange trucks right behind them. Now, I know that this is not going to be a very efficient line to begin. Oftentimes in the early game of Transport Fever, you are scraping by in hundreds of dollars. Like, it's crazy. It's very rare that you can get by on a game without having to take out an additional loan. But sometimes you can pull it off if you are diligent about setting up enough lines early on. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this farm setup we've got right now. You can see that this farm can produce up to 200 per session on its own. Right now, the farm is maxed out. It's got 18 set up for the full route and then 15 set up for the minor route. We're going to configure that because we want a little bit more stored there, since there's going to be 2 lines going through there. Okay. I still only need 1 stop here because I don't need any transition point. But just like the fuel route up in Salt Lake City, we are going to go ahead and modify this line so that it maximizes the return. Okay. So we're going to go to Manage Line. And it's going to pick up grain just fine. But then in Kansas City Central, we want to make sure that they're waiting till full. We're only going to make them wait for 60 seconds. And then we're going to have them go on their way. Okay? Also, at Kansas City Central, we need to make sure that our terminals are set up correctly. So right now, both the lines are coming into Terminal 2. We don't want that. We want one to come into Terminal 1, one to come into Terminal 2, because we want Terminal 1, we want this grain to food line to be able to drop off constantly to feed it so that the supply line can be sitting here waiting for food to process and not be in the way of the yellow trucks coming in to drop off more grain. Let's make sure this has 6. Yep, it's got 6. It's ready to go. Cool. All right, I already know that I'm going to need a lot more trucks on this to make this viable. So we're going to go ahead and double the amount of trucks. Spend $200,000 there. Okay. And then on the orange line, we're going to go ahead and increase that by 2 additional trucks. Okay. Now, while we're waiting and letting this kind of come to fruition, we're going to kind of let that happen. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of our lines. Okay, all right, we're making some money now. Great. Okay, so I'm going to sort this by balance. Okay, that oil to fuel to supply line, the one that's the red line, is now making me $129,976 a cycle. Okay, so it's very profitable. Good. The crude line is making me about $70,000. So that in itself right there is more than enough for the loan interest payment. Now, what is kind of interesting and strange about Transport Fever is that you're paying loan interest, but this number is never going down unless you repay the loan. So you will owe $100,000 of loan interest indefinitely until you start repaying the loan. It will not kind of pay down the principal at all. So you have to be intentional about repaying your loan as soon as you start getting established, so that these loan interest numbers start to go down. Okay, because you can't survive this game by paying $100,000 in interest every month forever. You got to pay that off. You can see this first truck already is profitable, $7,736. Okay, those 2 lines right there are still okay. So the KC grain line is starting to become profitable. Great. The KC supply line is still waiting, okay, to be profitable. All right. So we got these yellow trucks coming in. They're dropping things off, and we already have 9 food waiting on the docks, on the terminal. So as soon as these orange trucks start rocking up with their 6 grain, they're going to be able to pick up right away. Let's just watch this one. Be able to pick up food right away and take it to Kansas City. Dropped off all of its grain, taking 6 food. There we go. Perfect. Now it's going to go ahead and go to Kansas City and drop off that food, hopefully making a lot of money. Here comes the next orange truck to do the same. Now, I'm seeing 11 here, which is great. I'm a little concerned because the orange trucks are starting to rocket up, which means that eventually that will run out, which is fine. But hopefully the supply will be right around 6, waiting so that we always have enough for an orange truck to rocket up and take care of it. Okay. Another big thing that you kind of need to be aware of, and it's not showing right now, but it will when we get to the city, is that there's no passing on these roads. So your trucks will only drive as fast as the slowest truck in front. So because each of these trucks are the exact same, they're on the exact same road, they're all going to travel at the same speed. They're going to travel at 16 miles per hour. But let's say we get a horse and buggy in front of them, they will slow down to follow the horse and buggy instead of going around them. So it's really important as you play this game longer that you upgrade all of your trucks on the same line at the same time. So whenever I go to the next version of the truck, I'm going to upgrade everything, this entire set of lines, all at the same time, so that no one's held up by the speed of these initial trucks. Okay, I have a little... Ooh, that's close. All right, so he's going to go in. We're going to just pin him so that we can watch him go and see how much money he makes. Okay? But this line's going pretty well right here. Let's go ahead. Yeah, everything's going well here. Let's go ahead and go up to the Salt Lake City line real quick. All right, we're looking at this number right here, $5,798. Let's look over here and see how this is going. Okay. So what I can see right here is currently there's not enough crude oil coming in to supply the oil needs that I have for these red trucks. So that means I need to slightly increase the black trucks in order to make this work. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more black trucks. Okay, and again, there's a more advanced way to kind of look at that and we might get into that later, but kind of the rule is have enough on hand that a truck can completely fill up and drive off all in the same motion. And I'm not doing that right now. Okay. See, I've got 0 stored over here right now. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look over here. Well, that was quick. All right. So this is about to drop off. I'm at 5,798. Boom, 21,000. Okay. So I made $16,000 on that one drop off. That is fantastic. Truck goes back, restarts the cycle. The hope is that that truck will remain in the blue the entire time. Like it will not cost more than $21,000 to get him back to the farm and then to the food processing. It should be roughly $5,000. So this will be a $16,000 profit overall in this cycle. So everything's going well. These are going well. Let's look at our routes. Okay, all 4 of our routes now. All 4 of our routes are profitable. All right. But actually, these food lines are actually more profitable now than my oil lines. That is probably because these red trucks are not 100% full every single time because the balance was off. So let's go up. Let's check this balance real quick just to make sure. Okay, so this has got 3 right now. And I got more yellow trucks rocking up. Yellow truck, good. Yellow truck, good. Great. 19,000. Wonderful. All right, go do your thing again. Okay, let's go find a yellow truck that's almost all the way here. All right, this truck right here. All right, this still has $6,000 net positive, and it's almost to the food pickup, the farm. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it's not going to take it's not going to gain any money by picking things up. It's only going to gain money when it drops things off. That's another really interesting thing about this game, that you can love it or you can hate it. Trucks will make money, like routes will make money regardless of who they're selling to. So even if there was no one to sell this food to, right? Even if there's no Kansas City to kind of continue the loop, simply by these trucks dropping off the grain, they will make money. Now, you can ask yourself, well, how? Because at the end of the day, like, who are they selling the grain to? Well, they're selling the grain to the processing plant. You ask yourself, well, what's the processing plant selling it to? Nothing. But that's kind of the flaw in this system, is that they're going to be making money regardless. So later, I've been kind of lucky in these first 2 systems that we actually are selling to a city, but there are some opportunities where you can just sell from one processing center to the next, and there won't be a final destination, a final consumption of the product. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, a lot of early lines might rely on you to do something like that. Like, for instance, I could sell this iron to this steel mill just back and forth, and that will make money, even though there's no coal and there's nowhere to sell. Simply by me taking iron to the steel mill, that will make money. Okay, I don't want to do that if I don't have to, because I think it's kind of a cheap system, but I will probably have to do that eventually in order to help build some other systems, right? Like taking this wood and taking it to this sawmill. That's an easy line that I look forward to creating, but there's nowhere here that needs the sawmill goods except for over here. So this will make money regardless of if I sell it on or not. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at both of our lines. All right. So this red truck is waiting. That's not good. Okay. So we need to make sure. So yeah, 0 consumption there right now. All right. So that's not a good ratio. All right, let me show you the more detailed version of that just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if we click on the line details, you'll see that the rate that this is coming is 114 per year being delivered to here, okay? That means that approximately every 38 seconds, a black truck is rocking up with 6. So if we need a 2-to-1 ratio of crude to oil, that means that the frequency needs to be about half of the red trucks, okay? So if we pin that, and then we look at the red line, that's 84, okay? So technically, okay, we are just above where we should be, okay? Technically, according to the math, this 38 is just under half of this. So there should be enough fuel coming in, enough crude coming in to convert it to fuel, okay? It's not perfect right now. So, I mean, if I wanted to, I could, let's go ahead and do that. Let's add one more truck. Just to kind of, I like to see the the evidence. I like to see the barrels sitting on the terminal waiting to be picked up, and that's just not happening right now. So we'll see if we can't get that visible, because I think this made a truck. Nope, that truck walked away with 6. That's good. Okay. And it kind of looks like, for the most part, it's working, but I mean, it's not perfect yet. All right, so our fuel consumption's up to 45. That's a 60% boost to this city. It's now up to 239. But I do want you to notice here, it has stalled. So there's no upward arrow anymore. It is remaining constant, which means that it's remaining stable, okay? Unless this fuel continues to increase, this number will not increase, or if we start introducing food or some other variable. It's currently maxed out. It's maxed out at what it currently is, unless we start increasing the numbers, okay? All right, let's go take a look at our food line, see how that's going. And again, as we get deeper into this series and I have more money to play with, you'll see more and more lines be established per episode. But these initial episodes and initial hours of this game is all about just being very efficient about the money that you're spending and the lines that you're establishing, making sure that everything's profitable. For instance, I'm not seeing a good margin right here. Let's do the same thing we did before. So let's take the yellow line. Okay, that's a 51 frequency. Okay, it's distributing about 86 per calendar year. Let's pin that. Let's go to the orange line. Okay, that's 132. So again, we're having about double, almost triple grain to food 1. So triple yellow per orange. Okay, so that's good. That's good because, again, we need 2-to-1 in order for it to work. So it's working. It's just not as flash as I'd like it to be. Okay, it probably helps that these orange trucks are bringing grain with them every single time as well. Okay, I do want to make myself feel a little bit better about it, so we're going to add 2 more trucks onto the yellow line so that it's more consistent and the orange trucks are waiting less. Okay. All right, everything's looking good there. Okay, let's look at Kansas City, see what its growth is so far. What I really like to do later is I like to kind of start trying to manipulate these cities a little bit and change their growth patterns, which we'll get into. All right, Kansas City needs about 31 food in order to be full upgrade. And we're about 60% of that right now, so we're doing great. We're doing great. However, the emissions are pretty terrible because my trucks are driving right through the center of town, dropping things off and driving back through. So there's a lot of emissions going on in here. So we've got a poor rating on that. but we're going to try to work on that in the future. Okay. All right. So we've got these two lines established. Let's take a look at the overall financials. First of all, I want you to see down here these earnings. That's a positive number. It's 102,000. That's good. Let's look at our lines. All right, line statistics. Our balance, KC Grain 1 is 124,000. KC Grain Supply, 105,000. Let's see, fuel supply. Oh yeah, it's going all over the place. 123,000. Great, everything's going well. We're making 350. We're making about $400,000 in revenue from those lines. Okay, let's look at our overall account. All right, cool. So these are broken up into quarters, right? Or I'm sorry, half years. So in 3 halves before, so a year and a half prior, we made 29,000 in profit. Then we made 116,000 in profit. Now we are in profit again. All right. So everything's trending upward. Hopefully with the next segment, we're going to be able to start paying down our loan a little bit more and start connecting up a couple of these cities and building up some more successful lines. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.